Welcome back to Legends in My Own Mind. I should probably. I don't think I did. Legends in My Own Mind. I am your host, Zero Hype, Guy Smith.
Oh,
Jaron
cool.
McCaffrey.
Oh, cool. On the fifth one, you got a proper intro now.
Good. Everybody knows. It's my YouTube channel.
That's right. That's your channel. They know who you are.
Today we are here. Today we are here with a very special bonus episode.
Ooh, bonus. Yeah.
So the very first. This is my very first cycle. I hope to go through this Legends in My Own Mind with all the guys I respect and look up to in wrestling. None any more so than you. So I chose you to start this and kick this off with me.
Awesome.
I also chose you to start it and kick it off with me because you are kind of my YouTube guru and you're my YouTube legend in my own mind as well.
Wow. Awesome.
So I trusted you to back me up with the technical stuff I'm trying to figure out.
Anything totally.
Like that, I just is perfect to have you here. But I also kind of inspired this bonus episode because wrestling is my main thing.
Right.
And my channel is mostly about me doing wrestling stuff.
Right.
But what I would really like my channel to be about is dream chasing and dream finding.
Cool.
And, that thing that everybody who watches, that thing that they want to do, whether it's wrestling or YouTube or writing or bodybuilding or any given sport, whatever it may be, I want to inspire them to go do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
that's what I would like. And that's what, I say make a mess all the time, and that's my thing. Go out there and make your mess.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
And that's, because you're not going to be good at first. And too often we hold back and don't do something because we're afraid of making a mess, doing it wrong, being bad at it. You got to go through that stuff. You got to go make a mess.
Very cool. Very cool.
But leading back into that, today's bonus episode, I was kind of interested in your journey as a YouTuber because you are a very successful YouTuber over on your channel, PixelDan.
Yeah.
You are very successful. I feel like you're not in the top echelon.
No,
you know what I mean. But like nobody, you know what I mean.
Right.
Like I feel like you are like as broad a spectrum as the successful YouTubers can be. You know what I mean? Like you still got to be in the top 5% of people who use YouTube.
Okay. All right. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Everybody on YouTube, you got to be you may not be the top 1%, but you got to be at least in the top 5%.
And I've been around like almost the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm like a legacy YouTuber.
So I'm curious. I wanted to do a little episode where maybe you just told some people, because we talk all the time on my vlog channel about people who see you do PixelDan don't know anything about your wrestling.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people on my vlog channel or how many people who know Spencer Powers no PixelDan.
I know that's always interesting to me too, because we've definitely gotten to a point where more and more of the crowd does know that I'm PixelDan, to the point where I've gone out at a show and had somebody in the crowd yell, "That's PixelDan," and then start like chanting for me as PixelDan. Like, it's real weird to me, but like I guess my reach has gotten that kind of far that obviously my reach as PixelDan has way outgrown my reach as Spencer Powers at this point, because Spencer Powers is very local and within these couple states right around here at the farthest reach. Right. YouTube's global, and it's always crazy to me that there's people like I meet people regularly that live in Mexico and Argentina and Germany and you came to Mexico with me and saw in person. Like, we met people in person who like know me and watch me regularly who live in another country. It still blows my mind,
awesome.
All the time. it's humbling and really incredible that like I've been able to grow this as big as I have after all these years.
So can you just give us, like, how about just like a quick rundown of sort of the timeline for you on YouTube?
Sure.
The PixelDan timeline.
Yeah. So I'm in my 11th year right now, quickly approaching the 12th year of being PixelDan on YouTube, which is really, really insane. So this goes back to 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. And it was kind of one of those things where, like, you know, we've even talked about on this show a little bit. Like, I've always been the guy who likes toys and comic books and cartoons and like nerd stuff. I've always been that guy. That's just, you know, I was in high school and I was collecting Star Wars figures. And
when we talked about your wrestling history,
yeah.
I thought it was super awesome that the very first thing you talked about was like, oh, a friend of mine had toys.
Right? Like I got into wrestling because of wrestling toys.
Right.
Like toys is tied to like everything that I'm nostalgic about. I can always pinpoint something back to the toys. It's the type of person that I am, I think. Like even as a kid playing video games, when I would get so into certain video games, like Mega Man is a great example, I would like playing Mega Man so much, but when I turned off that game, I was sitting there wishing I had Mega Man action figures to play with, because I always felt the need to have something
in your hand,
in my hand, physical, tactile, that I can touch and collect, and like I wanted something physical to collect on anything that I've liked. Cool. And I think that's what kind of ties me to this whole collecting mentality. So yeah, like around 2007 or 8, this was very, very early in YouTube. It like just launched in like 06 or something like that, I think. Yeah. It was very, very young, but it was around that time that like I started seeing people making videos like talking about retro video games, like specifically, and a lot of people will know this guy, the Angry Video Game Nerd, James Rolfe. He was kind of my first like YouTuber that I was like, this is cool. Yeah. This is like better than watching TV. I'm gonna watch this guy talk about retro video games. You know what I mean? Yep. So I started watching this guy, and I was really loving what he was doing. But that's when I started feeling like inspired. Like I felt inspiration from what he was doing, because this guy, like he made his own show about retro video games and put it online, and suddenly hundreds of thousands of people are watching this. And it was one of those things where I was just like, man, like I feel like I'm a pretty creative person. I feel like I'm a very outgoing and charismatic person because of wrestling. Yeah. I think I could do this. But I got to do it different than him. I don't want to just do what he's doing. Right. And that was like a thing. Like he became popular, and all of a sudden there was a bunch of other angry video game reviewers because they were all just kind of
game geek,
right,
slightly mixed video game nerd.
Basically, that's what was going on.
The extremely frustrated video game dork.
So everybody saw what he was doing, and they got inspired too. But instead of doing their own thing, they just did his thing. Right. And I knew I didn't want to do his thing, and I attribute wrestling to a lot of my mentality on this. Because I never wanted to just be somebody else. I wanted to be me. Yeah. I wanted to find my own thing, my own niche. And while I really liked retro video games, and while I liked watching him talk about them, I also knew that I had a big He-Man toy collection, and I've always loved He-Man. He's always been like my favorite thing. Yep. My favorite thing ever since I was a kid. So I was like, well, why don't I talk about He-Man toys on a video and just see what happens? Right? And then to kind of tie myself to the popularity of what he was doing with video games, because all of a sudden the video game thing blew up, and there was like a ton of content about video games. Yep. So I was like, well, I'm going to piggyback off that a little bit, and I'm going to make videos about toys that come from video games. Okay. So that way it's still kind of tied to the video game thing, but I'm talking about
maybe some of those guys will watch it.
Exactly. Yeah. So like that's how I kind of created my first show, which was From Pixels to Plastic, which is where the name PixelDan comes from. A lot of people ask me that all the time. Why are you PixelDan? Yeah. Well, it all ties back to this very first thing the first real show that I did.
Also, you were probably shooting it on a
Oh man, I bought
8-bit video camera.
I bought like this,
like those early days,
those mini DV, cameras with the little tiny VHS tapes, basically that I bought on a Black Friday sale at Circuit City. Oof. That's what I started on, and then like I had to learn to like how to capture footage and edit it, and the quality was terrible when you look at that old stuff. But also like in 2007 and 8, we didn't have access to all this equipment that we can get now. That wasn't a thing 12 years ago.
Right.
That's literally a thing that's come up within the last 5 years, that we've been able to get all these HD cameras and all these studio lights that we're using right now to light this room. Like I really had to build up to that, and we can talk about that a little bit too. But so I started doing From Pixels to Plastic, and I legitimately caught the attention of that crowd.
Yep.
And that's when I first started, like I started meeting all the like other creators at that point and really getting into it. Some of those creators I'm still like really good friends with today, like Norm the Gaming Historian. I met him all the way back in 2008 because that's when he started first doing stuff. So it's like me and him both kind of came up together and like developed our own trajectories and our own styles and our own shows, but it was because both of us were inspired by this one guy and what he was doing. It's really amazing stuff. So I started doing that, but it wasn't long before I really felt the itch to really focus on stuff like the He-Man toys, because I really, really like that stuff. So I started talking about He-Man toys. That's when I shifted away from the video game stuff and really started focusing more on that stuff. And once I started doing that, there wasn't a lot of toy stuff on YouTube at the time. Mm-hmm. So I was one of the very, very early like guys that was reviewing toys or whatever. Right. And I caught the attention of Mattel real early on. So like imagine back then when this was kind of unheard of, there really wasn't a such thing as an influencer at this point. Yeah. That wasn't a thing. Right. And I was just a fan of He-Man like my whole life. Yeah. And next thing I know, Mattel
shooting silly little home videos
about my toys. Right. And like Mattel was just getting ready to launch a brand new toy line for Masters of the Universe, and like I had got a hold of the first figure, which was like a Comic-Con exclusive, and this was years before I was going all the way out to Comic-Con, so like I had to like find a way to get a hold of it and everything. Like I can't remember if maybe Duvall got it for me, because I think he went out there. Okay. So it might have been Duvall. We can give Duvall a shout out for that. He helped. He was definitely there at the beginning of all this. So I reviewed that brand new figure after I had already been talking about a bunch of the vintage ones. And it wasn't long after that before like next thing I know, like I'm in contact with Mattel and like wanting to know if I would be interested in like doing this on a regular basis if they start sending me product, and I do it. So like imagine being like just a guy who picked up his camcorder and started talking about things that he liked, and then all of a sudden this opportunity gets dropped in your lap where like the toy company that makes these wants to send them to me. Right. And I'm gonna start doing, yes, this is amazing. So of course I jumped at it, right? And it was just one of those amazing things where I never imagined I would have gotten to do that. And I didn't know at the time if like this was a thing I was always going to do or what was going to come of it. But I started doing it. That toy line lasted for this full 10 or 11 years I've been here. Yeah. And I've reviewed every single figure that's come out in that line. That's awesome. And obviously expanded this brand into something all on its own. Yeah. It all started right there with me watching these very early videos and feeling like I could do the same thing. And so I just did it. Yeah. I just did it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you, and this might be kind of a tough question, and maybe kind of nebulous. You can interpret this a lot of different ways.
Sure.
Can you compare your YouTube PixelDan journey to your wrestling Spencer Powers journey, or how would you contrast those, or
yeah,
differences, similarities?
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. We can. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I've talked a little bit about how I definitely attribute a lot of my character and my charisma and my ability to be on camera and project and talk and present things to my wrestling career, my journey in wrestling, because that really gave me the the motivation and the drive and the belief in myself to be that kind of a person. And with years of going out there and performing in front of a live crowd and having to get this live crowd to react to me and everything, it was super natural for me to move in front of a camera and present myself out to the world. I never felt nervous or scared in front of that camera. Yeah. And I there's a lot of people who get that way. A lot of people will get in front of a camera and they will feel nervous and feel a little timid or feel a little nervous about putting themselves out there. And that, I totally get that. And I probably would have been that way if I hadn't already had several years under my belt of where I was going out into a ring in tights and doing this in front of a live crowd every weekend. Do you know what I mean? So like that definitely built a big level of confidence in me. So I'm kind of lucky I had that really to begin with there. The entire journey has been really interesting because much like in wrestling, I've experienced drama and politics and stuff. Like, you're never going to escape that really in anything you do in life. And I'm very much like, I'm pretty lucky because I keep myself out of a lot of it. I don't know. And maybe it's because of who I am now. And I don't know if it's my age or what, but boy, do I super not care about drama.
I think it's who you are.
Yeah. Like,
because, I want to jump on that real quick. One thing and just say, because I hear a lot of wrestlers who, when they complain to me about, the drama in a locker room, wrestling drama, whatever, right? And they're like, only in wrestling. And every time I'm like, really? Have you never worked in an office building?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's
that
everywhere.
is everywhere. Did you not go to high school?
Right. High school especially. I mean, that's why they call it high school stuff, right?
Right. This is everywhere.
It really is.
But the other thing is, like, you choose whether or not you participate and whether or not you get sucked into it. Yeah. Even if you are the source of it.
Right.
You choose. And you're one of the people who chooses not to,
Exactly. I ignore as much as I can usually when that stuff does come up. I don't pick fights. I don't fight back with people when somebody wants to fight with me. I do my thing. Yeah. And I just keep doing my thing. Yeah. And it's hard sometimes. And we can talk about this at a point too, but like it's real hard sometimes to not get sucked into negative comments. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I've always done a pretty good job of just letting that go and not responding to the negative comments. That's the best thing you can do. Just don't even acknowledge it. I mean, like
that's 99% of what they want.
Exactly.
Like just that response.
Like, we're all human and it's gonna hurt sometimes. Like, sometimes people say things and they're stupid, and I know it's stupid what they're saying, but it still makes me doubt myself. Yeah. And it still gets me a little depressed sometimes. But usually if I just focus on keep doing what I'm doing and the things I like, that passes. Yeah. I get past it. It doesn't bother me anymore. And sometimes I can even look back on some of that stuff and remember it and laugh about it and joke about it with other people. And right. Especially when I get together with other guys like Norm or other YouTube creators, and we can all kind of vent to each other about the dumb comments that we're getting. That helps because you got to do that sometimes, right? You gotta. That's a good way to like let it all out and let it go without like getting on Twitter and like saying a bunch of dumb things that's going to come back. Right. Exactly. Right. Exactly. So
that's something else.
Right.
That's
right.
Antagonizing.
And exactly. So it's hard sometimes, but it's just, I've always been pretty good about, just doing my thing. And I think in the beginning, I mentioned that, I was one of the early guys doing this on YouTube. Yep. So when it got to the point that I decided I wanted to start traveling, and I wanted to start going to places like New York Toy Fair and San Diego Comic-Con. It was hard at first because I was walking into a brand new world of all these other guys that were very established and doing the press thing for years and years and years. And here's this kid walking in who's on YouTube. Right. with a video camera. What is this guy doing with a video camera? And I'm on their turf and I'm trying to do my thing. You know what I mean? So it was hard in the early days, and I really felt that. And it was hard walking into a place like Toy Fair specifically and feeling like all those guys were looking at me like, who does this kid think he is? Mm-hmm. You know, like, and I stuck with it. And it took me a long time. It took me several years of going specifically to Toy Fair to kind of develop what I do there and what my role is there. Yeah. But I think I'm pretty confident in saying that I kind of was one of the driving forces in changing the way that these events were covered because of YouTube growing and getting bigger and more people getting involved, to the point that like I was doing these product walkthroughs and these interviews with people like Mattel, and next thing you know, other toy companies are reaching out to me saying, how do we get a PixelDan walkthrough? Yeah. So I would start doing it with the next toy company and the next toy company, to the point where I've established it to where like that's what PixelDan does. Like we watch PixelDan's channel during Toy Fair and Comic-Con because he's the guy that goes and gets these interviews with all the toy companies. Yep. And now everybody does it, but it's still very much my thing.
Yeah.
I feel very confident in saying that, and I'm not trying to like. I have a lot of friends now in the industry, a lot of fellow press guys. Like it's really cool because like I'm at a point now where I know them all. I'm friends with them all. Everybody, we know we've all got good respect for each other. You know, I earned my respect,
right?
Much like in wrestling.
There you go.
I had to earn my respect. I had to show people that I wasn't just some punk kid walking in with a camera. I was serious about this. I was exactly. I was going to come in and I was going to do this, and this is the way things were going to be, and I was going to earn it. And I feel like I did. I feel like I earned my spot and I earned my position, and here I am. You know, I'm getting ready to walk into my 10th Toy Fair and my 10th Comic-Con this year. So that's 10 years of covering these events, and like they are like two of the reasons that people come to me now is for coverage of those two shows. And so I'm pretty proud of myself for being able to build that up.
We're all proud of you. Speaking from all of us who know you, and I'm sure everybody at home right now, we're all proud of you too.
Yeah, thanks.
So I think that's a great point to wrap up on. And the reason I wanted to do this with you, because I knew the story, and I have my own. It's kind of a roll of the dice. I have my own ideas of how this would kind of play out, and things that I've seen that as I've watched you on this journey. Some of the points I wanted, the things that I hoped would come out were, one, you talk a lot about how you were confident to do this, the YouTube thing, because of what you had accomplished through wrestling.
Yes.
I think that's so important, man. Like everybody who is thinking about doing something, right? Mm-hmm. Get out there and get started, because you are going to learn doing something that you're passionate about, that you enjoy doing, that you love. You are going to learn skills and things through that you are going to take into other avenues of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that I also know that when you were just starting out, like you were just doing it because it was something you were into. You know, you saw something that inspired you, and then you were like, "Oh, can I do that with this thing that I love?"
Yes, you know? Exactly.
And you did that. You know, you saw these video game things, and then you kind of did some video game things, and then you morphed that into the thing that you love.
Right.
Always, right. And that's the. Always chase the thing that you love. You know, go to what you know. You know, not what you know. Don't be afraid to branch out, but do the thing you're passionate about. Do the thing you love, because that's what's going to lead you. It's not the thing that is going to lead you to success. It's the passion for the thing that will lead you to the success.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I and that's people ask me all the time. One of the common questions I get anytime I do a panel, go to a convention. And I'm, you know, people come up and ask me questions at the table, or they ask me in a panel. They always say, "What's your advice? What's your advice for me if I wanted to be a YouTuber or be a toy reviewer or cover a convention or whatever?" And that's really it's a hard question to answer sometimes, because it's different for a lot of people. But there's two things that I always think is very important, and this is kind of my common thing that I always tell everybody. Number one, you have to be passionate about what you're doing.
Yep.
It's 100% the most important thing. Whatever you decide that you want to get on YouTube to talk about, care about it. Be passionate about it. Make sure it's something that you really enjoy and really love so that it's easy for you to talk about it. Because, like, don't worry so much up front about like your video looking perfect or your editing being perfect, because all of that comes with time and practice. But one of the things you really need to do right from the get-go is be passionate about the thing that you're talking about. Because the thing that's so special about YouTube, and it's harder these days, and it's almost getting kind of lost in the shuffle, but the reason that YouTube was a thing to begin with is because it was supposed to be about real people doing whatever they wanted to do. Connecting, you're supposed to get onto YouTube and connect to somebody who might have the same passions as you, share your passions. And people like feeling like they're hanging out with you through your videos, enjoying what you're enjoying. So if you're passionate about what you're talking about, people will be able to see that and they will want to watch you. They will want to come to you. If you're faking it, people are going to see right through that. So be passionate about what you're talking about. That's step number one. Step number two is be consistent. Because especially in today's world, today's YouTube climate, if we're talking about YouTube, stick with it, man. Put something out there all the time. And we've talked about burnout, and it's a real thing that happens. Or maybe it's hard to come up with ideas. But if you want to really start a channel and make something happen, find the thing you're passionate about and then consistently put something out there for people to watch, because you got to hook them, get them interested, but then you've also got to keep them coming back. And we've all got short attention spans because it's easy to watch anything else or turn on any app or do anything. So as long as you're giving them a reason to tune into you, they'll keep coming back. And then your audience will grow. And then along the way, you'll figure it all out. You'll figure out the better ways to edit, the better ways to light, a format for your show. But start with the passion and start with the consistency. I think those are the best two things you can do.
And thanks, because now everybody realizes the real reason I wanted to do this episode, because I needed to hear some of that stuff.
It gets real hard sometimes, though. I mean, like, here I am. I went on vacation for a week, and I've been back for a week, and I haven't put up a video all week. It's stupid. I should be doing more. I need to be more consistent because I've got an audience I need to maintain. But, yeah, it's important. So just try to stick with it, And that's usually pretty easy if you're passionate about it.
Man.
Yeah.
Can't get any better than that. Danny, man, you have really made the kickoff to this series just an unbelievable success.
Awesome.
I assume just from sitting here, I've enjoyed the hell out of it.
Good.
So thank you so much.
No, thank you, man. Thanks for having me here.
Man, thank you guys for tuning in with us. I hope you enjoyed this bonus episode. Next week, new legend.
Ooh.
New legend.
Ooh, I can't wait to see who it is.
Surprise.
All right.
Danny, thanks again.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.